I'm in the way. Before we say a single word about success, before we talk about discipline or sacrifice or any of the things that separate the people who make it from the people who don't, I need you to do something for me right now. I need you to be honest. Not with me, with yourself. Because what I am about to share with you only works if you are willing to tell yourself the truth. And most people, most intelligent, capable, genuinely talented people have become so skilled at lying to themselves that they don't even feel the lie anymore. It just feels like reality. It just feels like reality. It just feels like that's how things are. And that comfortable, invisible lie is the single most dangerous thing in your life right now. More dangerous than any external obstacle. More dangerous than any external obstacle. More dangerous than any enemy. More dangerous than failure. Because failure you can see and respond to. A lie you believe is a cage with no visible bars. So here is the truth I want you to hold in your hand for the next few minutes. Just hold it. Don't argue with it yet. Don't defend yourself against it yet. Just let it land. You are not living at just let it land. You are not living at your full capacity. Not even close. The version of you sitting here right now with everything you have been, I'm in the way, and through everything you have survived, everything you have learned, that version is operating at a fraction of what is actually available inside you. And deep down, underneath the noise and the routine and the comfortable story you tell about why your life looks the way it does, you already know that. You have always known that. That quiet knowing is exactly why you are here right now. You didn't find this by accident. Something in you is still hungry. Something in you is still hungry. Something in you has refused to fully accept the life that circumstance and habit and other people's opinions tried to build around you. And that hunger, that refusal is the most important thing about you. Don't you dare let anyone talk you out of it. Don't you dare let anyone talk you out of it. Don't you dare talk yourself out of it. Because here is what I know about the person who is still watching right now. You have been knocked down in ways that other people never saw. You have carried weight that was never acknowledged. You have carried weight that was never acknowledged. You have come closer than anyone around you probably realizes to giving up on something that mattered deeply to you. And you did it. You are still here, still looking, still willing to sit with the question that most people are too comfortable. I'm in the way, too distracted or too afraid to ask themselves. And that willingness, that single stubborn refusal to fully let go of the belief that something greater is possible is not a small thing. It is everything. It is the raw material of every extraordinary life that has ever been built. What you are about to hear is not motivation. Motivation fades. What you are about to hear is a blueprint, a mirror, a hard and honest conversation about the gap between where you are and where you know you are supposed to be. Stay with me. Every second of this matters. Let's talk about pain. Not the kind that sends you to a hospital, not the kind that sends you to a hospital, not the kind that shows up on an x-ray. The kind that lives in your chest at 2 a.m. when you're staring at the ceiling, wondering if any of this is worth it. The kind that shows up when you've given everything you have and the results still aren't there. The kind that comes when people you love don't believe in what you're building when the door you've knocked on 100 times still won't open, when your bank account says quit and your spirit is barely whispering stay. That pain, that's the one we need to talk about. Because that pain that I'm in the way, specific, suffocating, invisible pain is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher, and it has been trying to reach you for a long time. Most people treat pain like a fire alarm. The moment it goes off, they evacuate. They drop everything, run for the exit, and stand outside in the cold waiting for someone to tell them it's safe to go back in. And there's nothing wrong with them for doing that. It's instinct, it's human. It's what survival looks like for the 99%. But survival and greatness are two different destinations, and you cannot take the same road to both. Here is what nobody tells you when you're young and full of fire. The road to anything meaningful runs directly through discomfort. Not around it, not under it. Through it. There is no detour. The people you admire most, the ones who built something real, who stood for something real, who stood for something, who left a mark on this world, every single one of them paid a toll that looked like suffering before they ever saw the reward. They didn't get lucky enough to avoid the hard part. They got strong enough to survive it. And then they got wise enough to understand that the hard part was the whole point. Think about what pain actually does to. I'm in the way. A person, when they stop running from it, it strips away everything that isn't essential. It removes the comfort, the distraction, the illusion that you can coast. When you are in real pain, when you are broke or broken or both, you find out very quickly what you are actually made of. And the answer for most people is far more than they ever imagined. Pain has a way of introducing you to a version of yourself that ease never could. It reaches into places that comfort never touches and pulls out a strength you didn't know you were carrying. That is not an accident. That is design. You are built to handle more than you think. The body knows this. The mind, given the right framing, can learn it too. But the framing can learn it too. But the framing is everything. If you look at pain and say, this means I'm not cut out for this, pain becomes your ceiling. If you look at pain and say, this means I'm being forged into something, pain becomes your foundation. Same experience, same sleepless nights, same rejection, same failure. Completely different outcome, because the meaning you assign to your struggle determines the direction it takes you. Now, this is not about romanticizing suffering for its own sake. I'm in the way. That's not about seeking pain or pretending it doesn't hurt. It does hurt. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. Greatness costs something real, and the price is paid in discomfort and years of work that isn't recognized, in relationships that don't survive your ambition, in versions of yourself you have to let go of before the next one can emerge. You're allowed to feel that weight. What you are not allowed to do, not if you actually want the life you say you want, the life you say you want, is let the weight of it convince you to put the thing down. The 1% have not figured out how to feel less. They feel everything. They just refuse to let what they feel determine what they do. That is the gap. That is the entire gap between the person who makes it and the person who was about to. The willingness to keep moving while hurting, to keep moving while hurting, to keep building while bleeding, to keep showing up in the dark because they decided somewhere deep down that this matters more than their comfort does. And here's what happens on the other side of that decision. And there is always another side, even when you cannot see it from where you're standing. Pain, when you walk through it instead of around it, becomes I'm in the way, nothing else entirely. It becomes clarity. It becomes evidence. It becomes evidence. It becomes a story you tell that changes someone else's life 10 years from now. The person who has never been through anything has nothing to offer the world but opinions. The person who has been through the fire and kept walking has something far more valuable. Proof that it can be done. Proof that it can be done. Proof that you can break and rebuild. Proof that the worst chapter of your life does not have to be the final one. So when the pain comes, and it will come, it is coming for all of us in one form or another. The question is not, how do I make this stop? The question is, what is this trying to build in me? Ask that question, is what is this trying to build in me? Ask that question and everything changes. You stop looking for the exit and start looking for the lesson. You stop praying for the easy road and start trusting the process of the hard one. You stop treating your struggle like a sign that you're in the wrong place and start treating it like proof that you're in exactly the right one, that you're growing, that you're being stretched, that something larger is being constructed inside you than the version of you that walked in. Pain is not a detour from greatness. Pain is not a detour from greatness. Pain is I'm in the way, price of it. And every time you pay it without turning back, you buy yourself one step closer to the life that 99% of the world will only ever dream about. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings, no matter how powerful they are in the moment, are unreliable. They spike and they crash. They show up uninvited and they leave without warning. You felt it before, that electric surge after a great speech, a powerful conversation, a moment that made everything feel possible. You walked out of that room ready to change your life. You were going to wake up early, work harder, eat better, build something real. And then Tuesday happened. The alarm went off. The feeling was gone. And without the feeling was gone. And without the feeling, so was the action. That is not weakness. That is the nature of motivation. That is the nature of motivation. It was never designed to carry you the whole way. It was designed to carry you the whole way. It was designed to start the car. What keeps the car moving, what actually gets you somewhere is discipline. Discipline is not glamorous. Discipline is not glamorous. It does not trend. It does not make for an exciting story at the dinner table. Nobody posts about the fourth consecutive morning they woke up before sunrise to do the work nobody is watching them do. There's no applause for Consi. I'm in the way. Stincy. There's no viral moment in showing up quietly, doing what you said you would do, and going home. But there is a result, a slow, compounding, undeniable result that builds like interest in an account that the 99% don't even know exists. While the world is chasing the next hit of motivation, the 1% are making deposits into that account every single day. And one day the gap between them and everyone else becomes so wide that it looks like overnight success. It isn't. It never is. It is the accumulated weight of 1,000 days of discipline when the feeling wasn't there. Here is the honest truth about what separates the people who achieve extraordinary things from the people who spend their lives almost achieving them. It is not intelligence. It is not intelligence. It is not talent. It is not even a work ethic in the raw sense of the word. It is the decision made once clearly and then honored daily about what kind of person they are going to be, regardless of how they feel. The elite performer, the person who actually builds the business, writes the book, makes the team, transforms the body, they made a decision at some point that their standard of behavior is not negotiable based on their amat. I'm in the way. Iono State. They decided, this is who I am. And then they became that person through repetition, not inspiration. Think about what you do without thinking. You brush your teeth every morning, not because you're motivated to, not because you watched a video the night before that fired you up about dental hygiene. You do it because it is a standard. It is beneath you not to do it. You've done it so many times that skipping it would feel strange, would feel wrong, would feel like a version of yourself you don't recognize. That is exactly what the 1% do with their most important habits. They repeat them so relentlessly, so consistently, that discipline stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. They don't work hard because they feel like working hard. They work hard because they feel like working hard. They work hard because that is who they are, and everything else would feel like a betrayal of themselves. This is the shift that most people never make. They keep waiting to feel ready. They keep waiting to feel ready. They keep waiting for the version of themselves that is naturally motivated, naturally driven, naturally energized at 5 a.m. with a clear head and a full heart. That version is not coming. It does not exist. Readiness does not exist. Readiness is not a feeling that. I'm in the way. Arise before the work. It is a feeling that is built by doing the work anyway. The confidence, the momentum, the fire that you're waiting for motivation to give you, that comes from discipline. You act first and the feeling follows. You show up before you feel like showing up, and showing up teaches you that you are someone who shows up. And that identity, once built, becomes self-reinforcing. The most dangerous trap the 99% fall into is confusing preparation with progress. They research, they plan. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect level of motivation to strike. Meanwhile, the person who is going to outperform them is doing imperfect work in imperfect conditions right now, because they understand that momentum is built, not found. Every day they act without motivation, they prove to themselves that they don't need motivation. Every day they do the thing they committed to doing, regardless of how they feel. They strengthen a muscle that the majority of the world never even trains. The discipline muscle, the follow-through muscle, the I said I would so I will muscle. And here's what nobody warns you about. Discipline has an enemy, and that, I'm in the way, enemy lives inside you. It wears familiar faces. It sounds like reason, like self-care, like balance. It whispers that you've earned a break. It reminds you how hard you've been working. It suggests that one skip day won't matter, that you'll make it up tomorrow, that you'll make it up tomorrow, that you deserve to feel good right now. And sometimes rest is exactly what you need. Discipline is not the same as self-destruction. But the honest version of that inner voice and the excuse-making version sound almost identical. And learning to tell them apart is one of the most important skills you will ever develop. The question to ask is simple. Am I resting because I have genuinely given everything and need to recover? Or am I stopping because it got hard and my feelings told me to? One of those answers keeps you moving. The other one keeps you average. The 1% have made peace with something that the 99% are still fighting. They have accepted that most of what greatness requires will never feel good in the moment. The early mornings don't feel good. The repetition doesn't feel good. The repetition doesn't feel good. The sacrifice, the delay of gratification, the grinding invisible work, none of it produces the dopamine hit that scrolling a screen. I'm in the way. In does, that sleeping in does, that choosing comfort does, that choosing comfort does. But feelings are temporary and results are permanent. And when you structure your life around results instead of feelings, when discipline becomes the engine instead of motivation, you stop being at the mercy of your own emotions. You become someone who decides and then does. Every time, no matter what. No matter what. That is the whole secret. Not talent, not timing, not luck, not luck. Just the unglamorous, undefeated power of doing what you said you would do, even when, especially when you don't feel like it. There is a conversation happening around you right now that you cannot hear. It has no words, no volume, no obvious source. But it is louder than anything anyone has ever said to you directly. And it is shaping you in ways that go far deeper than any single piece of advice ever could. It is the conversation of your environment, the people in your orbit, the content feeding your mind, the energy of the rooms you walk into, the standards of the world you have chosen to live inside. And whether you are conscious of it or not, whether you have given it permission or not, that conversation is writing the story of your life. It is setting why. I'm in the way, our ceiling. It is drawing the borders of what you believe is normal, what you believe is possible, and ultimately what you believe you deserve. Most people underestimate this almost completely. They think of themselves as independent thinkers, as individuals who make their own choices based on their own values and their own logic. And in a vacuum, maybe that would be true, but nobody lives in a vacuum. Every single one of us is porous. We absorb, we mirror, we adapt to the standards of the environments we inhabit, not because we are weak, but because that is how human beings are wired. It is survival mechanics applied to social reality. Your brain is constantly scanning the people around you and asking, what is normal here? What is acceptable here? What is acceptable here? What does success look like in this world? And then quietly, without your conscious approval, it begins to calibrate your behavior, your ambition, and your expectations to match the answers it finds. This means something profound and slightly terrifying. It means that if you surround yourself with people who are comfortable, you will become comfortable. You will become comfortable. Not because comfort is your nature, but because comfort becomes the water USW. I'm in the way. I'm in until you forget that any other temperature exists. If you surround yourself with people who complain more than they create, who explain their limitations more fluently than they describe their goals, who have made peace with a life that is far smaller than what they once dreamed, you will start to speak that language. Slowly, subtly. You will start to find their logic reasonable. You will start to find their logic reasonable. You will start to find your own ambition slightly embarrassing, slightly unrealistic, slightly too much. And the day you stop calling your dreams possible is not the day you gave up. It is the day your environment finally finished the job it started. The 1% understand this at a cellular level. They are not by accident in rooms full of people who are building, who are growing, who are honest about their failures and relentless about their standards. They put themselves there deliberately, sometimes at great personal cost, because they know that proximity is not passive. Proximity is programming. When you sit consistently in the presence of people who operate at a higher level, Something shifts in you that no book, no speech, no amount of personal willpower can fully replicate. Your nervous system, I'm in the way, recalibrates. What once seemed impossible starts to seem merely difficult. What once seemed impossible starts to seem merely difficult. What once seemed arrogant starts to seem like basic self-respect. The ceiling that your old environment built above your head quietly disappears because everyone around you has already gone through it and they're not even looking back down. Now, this is where it gets personal and where most people hesitate because the environment conversation is not just about strangers and acquaintances. Sometimes it is about the people closest to you, the people who love you genuinely, who want good things for you sincerely, but whose version of good is smaller than your vision. People who call your ambition recklessness, people who mistake your hunger for arrogance. People who have never left the shore and so they call the ocean dangerous because that is the only honest conclusion their experience allows them to reach. And you love them. And you love them. And they love you. And this is still a problem. You cannot afford to let love become a leash. You cannot let the comfort of familiar relationships be the reason you stay inside a version of your life that no longer fits who you are becoming. This does not mean abandoning people. It do. I'm in the way. He's not mean cruelty or coldness or cutting off everyone who isn't performing at peak levels. It means being honest about how much volume certain voices get in your life. It means choosing consciously who you go to for guidance, for validation, for a reality check. Because if the people you trust most have never done what you are trying to do, their fear about your path is not wisdom. It is projection. And treating projection like wisdom is one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make. Your environment is not only people, it is what you consume. Every morning when you pick up your phone before your feet hit the floor, your environment is already talking to you. Every hour spent in passive consumption of content that does not challenge, elevate, or inform you is an hour your environment spent lowering your standard without you noticing. The mind is not a filing cabinet that stores information neutrally. It is a garden. Whatever you plant consistently and in the greatest quantity is what grows. Feed it comparison, cynicism, distraction, and noise, and you will harvest anxiety, stagnation, and a creeping sense that your life is happening to you rather than being built by. I'm in the way. You feed it vision, accountability, evidence of what is possible, proximity to people in motion, and something else entirely begins to grow. The 1% are ruthlessly intentional about their inputs. Not because they are robotic or joyless, but because they have learned through experience what most people only discover in regret. That you do not drift to greatness. You architected greatness. You architect it. You construct the conditions that make it likely, and you dismantle the conditions that make it impossible. Environment is the most powerful condition of all because it works on you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether you are paying attention or not. So the question is not whether your environment is shaping you. It is. The only question that matters is whether you are shaping your environment first, because the one who controls the room controls the room, controls the outcome. And if you are not deliberately building the world around you, the world around you is very deliberately building you into something far smaller than you were born to be. There is a version of your life that exists somewhere ahead of you that would make everything you are currently unwilling to give up look laughably small in comparison. I'm in the way. Ryson, a version where the work is meaningful, the freedom is real, the impact is tangible, and the person looking back at you in the mirror is someone you actually respect. That version is not a fantasy. It is not reserved for the specially gifted or the extraordinarily lucky. It is available with absolute certainty to anyone willing to pay the one price that almost nobody is willing to pay consistently and without complaint. That price is sacrifice. Not occasional sacrifice, not sacrifice when it is convenient or when the motivation is high. Sacrifice as a daily practice, a permanent posture, a non-negotiable feature of how you move through the world right now in exchange for something far greater later. The 99% have a relationship with sacrifice that is fundamentally broken, and it is broken in a very specific way. They are willing to sacrifice, but only when the reward is immediate. Only when the gap between giving up and getting is short enough to feel worth it. They will skip dessert if the scale shows results by Friday. They will work late if the bonus shows up next month. But ask them to give up something real, something they actually enjoy, something that makes I'm in the way as today feel good in exchange for a payoff that is 2 years away, 5 years away, a decade away, and the willingness evaporates almost instantly. Because the human brain is not naturally wired for that kind of exchange. It is wired for now. It is wired to weight today's pleasure against today's pain and to treat the future as a vague, almost fictional place that the present self doesn't fully believe in. The 1% have rewired that relationship. Not because they are biologically different. Not because delayed gratification comes naturally to them. But because at some point they made a decision clear-eyed and fully informed that the life they wanted was worth more than the comfort they were being asked to surrender. And once that decision was made with enough conviction, sacrifice stopped feeling like loss. It started feeling like investment. And that single shift in framing changes everything, because you do not resent an investment the way you resent a loss. You protect it. You nurture it. You stay consistent with it even when the market looks bad, even when the returns aren't visible yet, because you understand the mechanics well enough to trust the process. Look honestly, I'm in the way at how the 99% spend their most precious resources, and I mean all of them, not just money. Time is a resource. Attention is a resource. Energy is a resource. And the 99% leak all three in the same direction toward whatever produces the most immediate sensation of reward. They spend money they have not yet earned on things that will depreciate the moment they leave the store, to signal a status they have not yet achieved, to impress people whose opinion of them will not matter in 5 years. They spend their evenings in consumption, passive, numbing, endlessly scrolling consumption that produces nothing, builds nothing, compounds into nothing. They spend their attention on drama, on comparison, on the carefully curated highlight reels of other people's lives, which quietly convinces them that everyone else is ahead and the race is already lost. And at the end of all that spending, they wonder why there is nothing left, why the account financial, emotional, purposeful keeps coming up short. The 1% spend differently. They treat their time like it is the rarest commodity on earth, because it is. They treat their attention like it is the most powerful tool they own, because it is. They make choices that look bizarre, even antisocial to the people around them, leaving early, skipping things, saying no constantly, living below their means, long after their means have grown, because they are playing a game with a longer time horizon than most people around them can see. And the longer your time horizon, the more absurd short-term gratification becomes. When you are building something that is meant to last 20 years, spending 3 hours on something that produces nothing is not a small inefficiency. It is a compounding disaster. The 1% feel that in their bones, and it governs their choices quietly and completely. There is a particular kind of sacrifice that the 1% make that almost nobody talks about. And it is the hardest one. It is the hardest one. It is the social sacrifice. The sacrifice of fitting in, of being normal, of going along with what the people around them are doing, because it is easier than being the one who does it. The late nights they don't attend, the conversations they don't engage with, the version of themselves that their old world understood and their new world requires them to leave behind. People will call it arrogance. They will call it arrogance. They will call it antisocial. I'm in the way. They will say you've changed, as if change were an accusation. And you will have to make peace with that, because the alternative is staying the same to keep other people comfortable, which is the most expensive social transaction a person can ever agree to. Sacrifice now, live legendary later is not a motivational slogan. It is a description of a mathematical reality. Every choice you make today is a vote for a future version of yourself. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you are voting for a future that looks exactly like your present. Every time you choose the hard thing, the delayed thing, the thing that costs you something real today, you are casting a vote for a future that is larger, freer, and more meaningful than anything your present self can fully imagine. Those votes accumulate, they compound, they eventually become a life that other people look at and call lucky, call gifted, call exceptional, not knowing that what they are actually looking at is the long, quiet, unglamorous result of 10,000 small sacrifices made in private with no audience, no applause, and no guarantee. That is the price of the legendary life. It is paid in full, in advance. I'm in the way, in the currency of what you are willing to give up right now. And the only real question is whether what you are holding on to today is worth more to you than everything that is waiting for you on the other side of letting it go. You made it this far, and I need you to understand something that is not an accident. Most people quit in the middle. Most people quit in the middle. Most people start strong, lose interest, and move on to the next thing before they ever reach the point where the thing they started begins to pay off. But you are still here. And that tells me something about you that you might not even be telling yourself yet. So let me bring it home. Everything we have talked about, the pain, the discipline, the environment, the sacrifice, none of it means anything if it stays in this moment. If it lives only in the feeling you have right now, in the heat of this, in the electricity of being reminded of what you are capable of. Because that feeling has an expiration date. You know it does. You know it does. You have felt it before. The fire rises and then life happens and the fire dies down and you are standing in the same place you were before, wondering where all that energy went. The difference this time, I'm in the way, choose for there to be a difference, is not the feeling. It is the decision you make before the feeling fades. Right now, before you close this, before you walk back into your regular life with its regular demands and its regular temptations to stay small, you need to make a decision, not a wish, not a hope, a cold, clear, irreversible decision about who you are going to be from this moment forward. A decision that does not require the feeling to still be present in order to be honored. Because here is the truth that nobody can give you and nobody can take from you. You already know what you need to do. You have known for a long time. It is not information you are lacking. It is not information you are lacking. It is not one more keynote, one more speech, one more video away. The knowing has been sitting inside you, quiet and patient, waiting for you to stop pretending you need more time to figure it out and start accepting that the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the consistent daily courage to act on what you already know. The 99% will watch this and feel something and do nothing. That is not a judgment, it is a pattern. And patterns are broken by people who decide they are bigger than teeth. I'm in the way. Air habits. The 1% will take one thing, one real and specific thing, and move on it before the sun goes down today. Not perfectly, not with all the answers, but they will move. But they will move because motion is the language the universe responds to, not intention, not potential, motion. You are not built for average. You are not put here to drift, to settle, to spend your one life making peace with a version of yourself that you know is smaller than what is possible. The world does not need more people who almost made it. It needs you fully committed, fully alive, fully willing to do what the 99% will not. Now go. And don't you dare stop.